Hi, my name is Will Bennett. I'm a senior associate at Saxe, Doernberger, and Vita. I'm in our West Coast office. I'm here today with Jeremiah Welch for this month's Partner Spotlight. Jeremiah is our managing partner out here in the West Coast office in California. And I'm excited to say that we're celebrating a 5th year anniversary of this office this month. Jeremiah has been practicing law for 26 years. He's been at SDV doing policyholder work specifically for the last 14 of those years. And let's get started with the questions then. So Jeremiah, how do you keep your team motivated despite conflicts and obstacles? Very pressing question these days.
Well, it is a good question. I think to me, one of the critical foundations of how you keep a team motivated is transparency. I mean, people have to understand what the goals of the organization are. But more than that, I think they have to understand what as a partner, as a leader, what are your expectations of them? And I think, and you know, what can they expect of you? What does a career path look like? When we talk about, you know, growing this office, which you know, started with me, and then you maybe a couple months after, 2 people. You know, how do you grow that? You've got to show people what their role in that's going to be and how they're going to share in it. How that growth is not just about SDV and about Jeremiah Welch, it's about them. And I think that you know, it's been said that, you know, I've heard commentary that the team out here feels, or people will say they all seem like they're rowing in the right direction, or they're all rowing together, they know what's going on. That's important. I mean, that to me tells me that they get it, and that we've achieved that transparency, where they know what their role is and they know how what they're doing gets us to the finish line. I think that's critical. I think people need to understand why what they're doing is important.
So, you know, I know you're one of the many people at SDV who had no idea they wanted to be an insurance lawyer and are now excited, actively practicing insurance lawyers. What about it interested you? What about insurance coverage interested you and drew you in?
You know, it's a good question. So I think, you know, many people, despite, you know, the idea of guidance counselors and you know, you should plot your course and all this kind of stuff and plan your future. In truth, most people just go where the river takes, and it can take you in lots of strange places that you never anticipated. My career as a lawyer started as a defense lawyer. I did med mal defense for, you know, the first 11, 12 years or so. And was a partner somewhere. I was trying cases and you know, working like a dog as trial lawyers do. And I realized, you know, and this again would have been in my mid-30s, realized that I wasn't really using my brain the way that I had imagined I would in law school. I was a salesman. I was convincing a jury that up was down and right was left. And that's the skill set, right? Can you convince the jury that your story is the right story, no matter what the actual story is? And I said, you know, I didn't do this to be a salesperson. I didn't do this to be an actor. I wanted to use my brain and really solve intellectual problems. And the other thing I hated about being a defense lawyer was I wasn't connected to the client in the same way. I was connected to the client through an insurance company that hired me. And when you're defending insured liability, it's the insurance company that's at risk, not the client anymore. And I didn't like that dynamic. So I said, you know, I want to work for a client, and I want to use my brain. And so those are the reasons that I quit defense practice. You know, at the time I was working in California. And I said, I'm quitting. I'm moving back to New England where I was raised. I'm going to take a year off, and I'm going to figure out where I go next. But when I do that, it's going to be something intellectual. It's going to be something that's more in line with that lawyer that I always imagined I would be. And I did that. And about 9 months into that year, I saw an ad in the paper for an associate at Saxe, Doernberger and Vita. And I, of course, had been a partner and, thought I knew a few things. But I said, I've got to start somewhere. I'm completely rebranding myself. Let me do that. And I'll tell you, that's where the best part of the story began, which is, this is everything that I wanted it to be: the using of your brain, the working for clients who really appreciate and understand the value that you bring. You're not just reduced to a bunch of numbers, and intellectually fascinating. So anyway, I mean, that's the path, right? Yes, there were circumstances in that it just happened to be that an insurance coverage firm was one of the first places I looked, but it was deliberate in the sense that I said, okay, there's a small subset of practice areas where I think, true intellectual capacity and reasoning skills and all of that really play into it. And so that's what attracted me.
So with SDV then having been sort of the facility that allowed that to happen, what does SDV mean to you as you look back on all of it?
Yeah, I've thought about that. And I'll tell you, I think just like life in general, what it means to me has changed periodically over time. What it meant to me when I was an associate, when I was first hired, what it means to me now are radically different. Both were good, but it's just very different. In the beginning, it meant all those things I just talked about. The idea of, look, this is a practice where quality, right? Getting the right answer and getting a fulsome analysis to the client is what matters, right? The idea that the client needs to fully understand what their options are. It's not just simply, do I hire a lawyer and sue my insurance company? It costs a bunch of money. No, it's everything. How does the lawsuit tax the relationship with your insurance company? What are the odds of winning the lawsuit? What's it going to cost me? How long is it going to take? All that stuff. But getting in the weeds and explaining to them, these are the arguments. This is why what they're saying is wrong. This is why what you're saying is right. Giving them the opportunity to be able to make a business decision that's smart, not just hire me, let me go make a bunch of money. In the beginning, that felt like a breath of fresh air. That what goes on in my head all of a sudden really matters. It's not just what comes out of my mouth. So that was great. But then I'll tell you what, over time, the ability of SDV to be nimble, to think outside the box, to grow. And the thing that I don't know that I appreciated fully until I became a partner, it's a truly merit-based organization. And that's, why I stayed and why I love it and why I thrive here, is because it is truly merit-based. You get to, it's just like professional sports. If you've got the ability to go in the game and score points, you go in the game and score points. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, what, it doesn't matter. And some of our most talented people here are young, very young, but they have the ability. And I immediately recognized how different that was than where I had been before, where it was all about how long have you been doing this? How long have you been at the firm? You can't try a case until you've been practicing X number of years. That's nonsense. There are plenty of good lawyers trying cases out there in their second and third year of practice. It's natural ability. And so being in a place that truly understood that the ability to deliver quality comes from experience and training and all these other things, but it also comes from ability, and rewards that and enables that. And for somebody who's got that desire, law firms can be a toxic environment. Lots of law firms, I think, the first thing you run into is people that try to shield you from the client. I don't want this client meeting anybody other than me. I don't want them meeting any of these young people. I might lose the client. And so if you're coming up and trying to find your place in the world, that's a very difficult environment to grow up in. But a place that says, come on in, Tracy, who says, hey, you need to meet Jeremiah, and pushes me, as fast as I'm able, in front of clients. I mean, that's a wonderful place to build a career, because you can really thrive. It goes where your ability takes you. So that's, to me, that's what it's come to mean, is that commitment to quality, that intellectual practice, but that meritocracy and, truly supporting each individual's ability to be their best.
Absolutely. Anyone who's worked with you in the firm, outside the firm, client or not, knows that you're particularly focused at all times on being on the cutting edge of this industry. How has, obviously this is going to be in broad terms, but how has the industry changed? How is it different from when you started doing this?
I don't know. I guess I'd say gradual trend towards more sophistication, the ups and downs, who's in, who's out of the marketplace. That's pretty typical. But one thing that's worth saying, you would think to yourself, okay, general liability policy has been around forever. And these insurance policies get mulled over by lawyers all the time and litigated in courts all over the country. At what point do you run out of room for new issues? At what point has everything been thought of and decided and said? And you'd think, boy, we've been doing this so long that we ought to have hit that. We never do. Every turn of the wheel, there's a new issue, right? We're focused on occurrence. We're focused on, a builder's risk issue. We're focused now on, leg 3, everybody got excited. What does leg 3 really mean? What does it really do? There's always something new. And that's, again, back to the beginning, that's part of the reason I love this. It doesn't ever get stale. And your point about staying on the cutting edge, I mean, to me, that's necessary, right? How am I going to advise a client in real time if I don't really understand what's going on at the underwriting table? If I don't really understand what's going on in a courtroom, you have to have the whole picture. Otherwise, you're only giving one small piece of the advice that a client needs. Just being able to say, well, here's what I'm going to say when I go sue these people, it's not enough. You have to be able to talk about how the policy is written. You have to be able to make suggestions about how you can make it better. You have to know while you're doing that, the world the broker lives in. To be in a white tower and come up with a list of 10 things that would make a policy better if no underwriter's ever going to give you those things is bad advice. So, I mean, I think, in the time I've been at SDV, that's one of the best parts about it has been the growth of our relationship with the broker community. I mean, those are the folks in real time out there every day, expanding, narrowing, living through this drama playing out of what can be covered and what's not covered. You have to, from where we sit, you have to be connected to that crowd. I don't understand how people function who are not, because you're giving advice in a vacuum. You don't know what the policy was intended to mean. And that's information you need. Yes, most states are 4 corners, but you still need to know, because it affects the, it affects the nature of the argument. It affects who feels like they have the moral high ground, and that matters. So you need to understand all that.
Absolutely. For anyone who doesn't know, Jeremiah leads an interesting life, world traveler, an avid surfer. What's something on your bucket list? Because I know you've probably checked a lot off already. Well,
I have a friend who does nothing but travel, and I can tell you there's so many places to go and see, and he's posting his pictures from everywhere all the time. And so I'm always reminded of all the places yet to see. The country of Bhutan has always been on my bucket list. It's always fascinated me. It's hard to get into. They limit the number of people that can go every year. It's incredibly environmentally friendly. There are just so many things. Ancient culture. In terms of a place to go see, that I hope to get there someday. But I guess my philosophy in life has never been to say a life well lived requires that I do these 10 things. I'm not really a bucket list kind of person. I'm kind of a, go where the river takes me. And when I see what's coming around the next bend, I get excited about that. Not because it was on my bucket list, because, oh, look what's coming. This is going to be exciting. one of the things clients laugh at is I'll tell them this is going to be a really exciting case. And they're like, I'm glad you think so. But, that's why I'm here. So, I mean, honestly, the big bucket list item is what I have. It's figuring out how to be in the practice of law and really enjoy it.
Great. Thank you for your time answering all these questions, and to everyone listening, thank you for your time listening to him answer these questions.